Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we would like to let you know that the next session will start at 14:15. So may I kindly request all delegates joining to please take your seats for this session. Thank you.
Hello, welcome back. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, welcome back to the afternoon session of the 9th Committee on Statistics. Before we resume agenda item 2, I would like to reiterate the arrangements for our discussion of this agenda item, as well as all other agenda items over the next 3 days. or these 3 days. We ask for your support to tailor your interventions, mainly to issues for discussion or consideration only, and to keep each intervention to no more than 3 minutes. I strongly urge delegations to keep interventions brief and focused. Please keep an eye on the timer displayed on the screen. You'll be alerted when your 3 minutes are up and will be asked to wrap up your intervention immediately. In view of the mandates and operational requirements of the committee, priority will be given to the members, associate members, and countries that are permanent observers of the Commission to deliberate on procedural matters. Limited opportunities to deliberate on procedural matters will be available for observer organizations, intergovernmental organizations, and other entities, depending on the availability of time. Thank you for your attention. Distinguished delegates, we will now resume agenda item 2 as presented in the document, Harnessing the Power of Data to Leave No One Behind, Reflections on the Status of Implementation of the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to Leave No One Behind, ESCAP/CST-9/2, that's the document. The floor is now open for comments on agenda item 2. The first speaker is distinguished delegate from Fiji, to be followed by distinguished delegate from Maldives. Distinguished delegate from Fiji, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. Excellencies, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, Mula Vinaka to everyone. Fiji reiterates the collective vision and framework of the Declaration of Navigating Policy with Data to Leave No One Behind, and affirm that the realization for action transcends the capabilities of national statistical systems and requires a whole-of-government approach adhering to the following 3 principles of 1. Linking policy with data, 2. Investment in national statistical systems, and 3. Statistical officers to function as one integrated system upholding the fundamental principle of official statistics. The Asia-Pacific region is the largest and most diverse region, and the leader in statistics and home to some of the most advanced technologies. However, for us in Fiji, like our Pacific and small island developing states, could benefit from stronger commitment via technical and financial support from development partners within the Asia-Pacific region to assist in achieving long-term development. For us in Fiji, the revaluation has led to a re-engagement and political polarization. This is evident in the multi-agency task force and identification of key challenges and the most viable approach that is Fijian-centric. Though the challenge of insufficient funding will continue to be a challenge, the more coordinated approach will enable us to unlock the potential of data in support of decision-making for sustainable development. Linking policy with data. This is linking policy starts with the review and reform of the relevant legislation. Fiji currently has a Statistics Data Act of 1961 as the guiding act for the Fiji Bureau of Statistics. Similarly, in the Civil Registration and Vital Statistics scope, the Birth, Deaths, and Marriage Registration Act is also quite old, as it was enacted in 1975. The need to review and reform the laws is a priority for a coalition government. The review will address current policy issues and to be in line with international best practices, be it registration or reporting. Additionally, the Fiji Bureau of Statistics is being tasked by government to coordinate the establishment of the national population policy. Number 2 is the investment in national statistics systems. It requires a significant investment in legislation, human resource, technology, and infrastructure. Fiji, like many small island developing states, face limited fiscal capacity and competing national priorities. We need the support of our partners to be able to complete this exercise systematically and in a timely manner. The third issue is the statistical offices to function as one integrated system upholding the fundamental principles of official
Distinguished
statistics.
delegate, you have up to 3 minutes already. Please wrap up now.
Thank you. To conclude, with a reminder of all of you, from all of us as members of the Pacific Island developing states, that nothing about us without us. Whilst we need and welcome technical and donor partners, legislative reform, policy development, data sets, data collection, data integrity, data security needs to be driven by us, the island states, with your support.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Fiji. We now have the next speaker from Maldives, followed by the distinguished delegate from Philippines. Distinguished delegate from Maldives, you can have the floor now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, members of the Economic and Social Council for Asia and Pacific, good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The relentless rise in sea levels and increasing frequency of extreme weather events pose an existential threat to our communities, ecosystems, and economies. The Maldives continues to combat these challenges and appreciates the support provided by UN ESCAP in all areas of our development. We appreciate UN ESCAP for their support towards developing the system of environmental economic accounting, SEA, and the development of the SEA roadmap. We commend UNESCAP's efforts in supporting climate action and sustainable development. Despite the formidable challenges we face, the Maldives remain committed to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We recognize UNESCAP's invaluable support in strengthening our statistical capacity through initiatives like big data and open source platforms such as .stats Suite, which enables the efficient production and dissemination of high-quality data. Significant gaps still remain in data availability and capacity, particularly in application of big data techniques and machine learning in demographic, economic, and environmental statistics. Chair, looking ahead, the Maldives intends to conduct a registered-based census in 2030, supported by a robust civil registration and vital statistics system. With the support of UNESCAP, we have already made significant strides, including the successful implementation of a fully online vital registration and statistics VRS system. Yet, there remains a pressing need for continued capacity building and advocacy to enhance the timeliness and accuracy of the data. We implore UNESCAP to sustain its support in bolstering the Maldives VRS system. The Maldives reaffirms its commitment to working with UNESCAP and its member states to build a resilient, sustainable, and prosperous Asia-Pacific region. With just 6 years remaining for the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, we emphasize the need to increase funding for statistics, especially for small island developing states, as well as building more collaborative partnerships among the member countries in supporting each other. I thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Maldives. We now have the next speaker, distinguished delegate from Philippines, to be followed by distinguished delegate from Bangladesh. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. The Philippines welcomes the report on the progress of the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to Leave No One Behind. We appreciate the ESCAP Secretariat's efforts in monitoring the implementation status of the Declaration and recognize both the challenges and opportunities for regional action. As the 2030 deadline approaches, the critical need for robust, timely, and high-quality data for informed policy and decision-making at both national and subnational levels becomes increasingly apparent. Recognizing the importance of complete and updated data to ensure effective decision-making, the Philippine Statistics Authority has partnered with the UNICEF to launch the SDG Data Platform, reflecting the country's commitment to timely submission and the enhancement of statistical agility. This online platform consolidates and visualizes data from over 20 agencies, demonstrating how innovation can drive data-informed interventions across sectors. We acknowledge the need to accelerate the implementation of the declaration, underscoring the importance of increased political and financial support for inclusive statistical systems to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In this context, the Philippine Statistics Authority receives strong government support, which provides substantial resources for major statistical operations, such as the 2024 Census of Population and the community-based monitoring system. Strong support from the national and local government and data partners has also contributed to the success of the Philippine Statistics Authority's provincial product accounts to measure economic performance at the local level. In addition, we take pride that the Philippine Congress backing led to the enactment of the Philippine Ecosystem and Natural Capital Accounting System Act this year, which integrates natural capital considerations into our statistical framework. Through the PENCAS Act, we have aligned with international environmental economic accounting standards and underscored the importance of natural resources sustainability as a foundation for inclusive development. The Philippines acknowledges that a successful implementation of the declaration requires a whole society approach. In this context, strong coordination among government agencies, the private sector, and the stakeholders is facilitated through the Interagency Committees on Statistics under the purview of the Philippine Statistics Authority Board. In closing, the Philippines expresses its full support for both draft decisions, the first to promote a whole-of-society approach to advancing the implementation of the declaration, and the second to advance the development of robust data partnership by embracing innovation, upholding the UNFPOS, and working together. We are
Thank you,
committed
the
to deliver
Philippines delegate.
high-quality, timely, and relevant data that drives sustainable development. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. And now we have the next speaker, distinguished delegate from Bangladesh, followed by distinguished speaker from China. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the requirements of disaggregated information on population groups extend the focus on the far side, national trends and averages towards distinguishing subgroups of the population that were unnoticed with relevant specific development targets. Disaggregated statistics add values as a vital input for an added concentrated policy targeting. On the other hand, non-availability of timely and high-quality disaggregated data will, however, contribute to monitoring the progress of achieving SDGs ineffective. Distinguished delegates, to ensure the spirit of SDGs leave no one behind, LNOB, it is vital to visualize the vulnerable group that left behind through statistics. It can be only ensured if disaggregation of data for the relevant indicators are generated and published. Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics has published a disaggregation mapping document titled Action Plan and Methodological Guidelines towards Data Generation and Disaggregation for Monitoring and Evaluation of SDGs. In this document, the possible minimum disaggregation and its categories have been identified for each of the indicators considering the national context. The disaggregation, disseminations and categories are differing on demographic, geographic and other relevant measures such as gender, age group, geographical region, residence and so on. Some of the indicators are also bring economic, health-related and other relevant components like aid, financing, migration, disability status, etc. As a disaggregation dimension, sex or gender has been identified against highest number of indicators, that is 96, followed by age is for 81 indicators. Residence, urban and rural is for 68 indicators, sub-national level, that is division, district, upazila for 62 indicators and so on. Distinguished delegates, Bangladesh has also taken several initiatives to enhance the data disaggregation, including use of administrative data widely, use of small area estimation for key indicators, use of citizen data for granular level monitoring. We have published the Population and Housing Census 2022, where most disaggregated data has been incorporated. We hope new initiatives can help us a lot. I thank you all.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Bangladesh. We now have a distinguished delegate from China, followed by distinguished delegate from Georgia. Thank you.
我们同意秘书处提出的建议草案和决定草案。过去2年，亚太统计委员会开展了大量卓有成效的工作，我们对此高度赞赏。中国政府努力履行在宣言中所做的承诺，在以下6个方面取得了显著的进展：一是强化政府公共服务，中国国家统计局严格执行 SDDS 数据公布标准，目前已经形成官方网站、新闻发布会、新媒体、统计资料出版、数据库等多渠道数据公开机制。二是积极探索大数据在官方统计中的应用，在农业统计中积极应用卫星遥感、无人机以及人工智能等现代信息技术手段，在服务业统计中充分利用电商平台基础信息和交易记录等大数据，开展电子商务统计。三是中国政府在预算方面积极支持国家统计事业，有力地保障了第5次全国经济普查、投入产出调查、第4届联合国世界数据论坛等统计项目和交流活动。四是对国际统计能力建设提供积极的资助。2022年以来，中国对亚太统计研究所累计捐款21万美元，努力推动亚太地区统计能力的提升。五是加强法律保障。2024年，中国完成了《中华人民共和国统计法》的第3次修改，充分发挥法治对统计现代化改革的引领、规范和保障作用。六是加快推进统计基础设施现代化，积极引入大数据、云计算、人工智能等现代技术手段，成功开展统计云工程的建设。我们愿意与亚太各国分享经验，相互学习，继续为执行共同愿景和行动框架以及宣言做出贡献。发言完毕，谢谢。
Thank you, distinguished delegate from China. We now have distinguished delegate from Georgia, followed by distinguished delegate from India. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and great pleasure to address you on behalf of the National Statistics Office of Georgia. Perhaps we can all agree that enhancing the capacity of NSOs and data systems while ensuring access to high quality, timely, reliable, and disaggregated data remains a top priority for measuring progress towards our shared goals and ensuring no one left behind. Over the past few years, Georgia has achieved significant milestones in developing the national statistical system and implementation of international standards and internationally recognized best practices. We have established new standards, introduced advanced methodologies, conducted innovative surveys, and produced more disaggregated data. Our data collection and dissemination tools have seen substantial improvements, and since 2023, we have transitioned to a paperless office, eliminating the use of paper questionnaires across all surveys. In 2023, strategic review, global assessment of the national statistical system was conducted by UNECE, EFTA, and Eurostat. Then, with the primary objective of this assessment was to provide a comprehensive overview and situational analysis of the country statistical landscape. It aimed to identify existing gaps within the system and offer recommendations how to advance and ensuring proper implementation of the UN fundamental principles of official statistics. Based on these recommendations coming from global assessment, we drafted the strategy for national statistical system, which defines concrete rules and obligations of relevant institutions involved in the system. Another major milestone was the adoption of the new law on official statistics of Georgia in 2023, fully aligned with the generic law on official statistics and European Statistics Code of Practice. I'm also pleased to highlight the launch of the EU twinning project with Statistics Finland. This initiative represents another step forward, strengthening Georgia's statistical system and addressing key objectives outlined in the EU Association Agreement and its action plan. Currently, our focus is on the ongoing population and agricultural census, which began in November 14 and will run until the end of December. For the first time in Georgia's history, census data is being collected electronically using a modern two-stage approach, web-based self-reporting followed by copy using tablets. In conclusion, I extend my sincere appreciation to UN ESCAP for its vital role in strengthening our statistical system. The government of Georgia remains committed to fostering strong partnership and supporting the ESCAP Committee on Statistics in achieving its objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Georgia. Now we have the distinguished delegate from India, followed by the distinguished delegate from Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. National Statistics Office, NSO, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSPI, Government of India, appreciate the efforts of ESCAP Secretariat for preparing the report on the overview of progress, principles, opportunities for regional action towards harnessing the power of data to leave no one behind. India remains fully committed to the principles of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the pursuit of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. As per the latest SDG progress report, data on more than 95% of the indicators are available for India. India conducts regular data user and suppliers conferences and brainstorming sessions for improving the data ecosystem and strengthening the data-driven decision-making. Mr. Chair, some of the other major initiatives taken for continuous quality improvement and feedback mechanism to improve the credibility of statistical system include preparation of advanced release calendar, ARC 2425 for statistical products of MOSPI, defining the role of statistical advisors in the central ministry, government ministries, establishment of research and analysis unit in MOSPI, etc. In order to address the issues in the existing system for administrative statistics, the ministry has taken steps including examination of major data sets, core and administrative both, generated by selected ministry departments on various elements of national data, metadata structure, and development of metadata standards for surveys, censuses, and administrative records. India has recently launched Data Innovation Lab in its endeavor to create an innovation ecosystem within the official statistical system and address the challenges being faced in official statistics. It is envisaged primarily to identify relevant problem statements and seek their solution through wider participation of stakeholders such as researchers, startups, academic research organizations, and institutes of national and international eminence. Mr. Chair, while India believes in the concept of adopting a whole-of-society approach to data and appreciates the associated reflections in the report, it may be stressed that use of administrative data sources for policymaking must carefully consider ensuring data privacy, security, and quality aspects of these data sets. Further, to optimally utilize the alternate data sources and emerging technologies, a robust data governance framework would require to be developed through stakeholders' consultations. India emphasizes that institutional training and capacity building may be conducted by UNESCAP at the regional level by utilizing regional hubs and global hubs in the Asia-Pacific region to promote scaling up adoption of technology and mainstreaming innovation within the official statistical system for improving the linkage of data and policy. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from India. Now we have a distinguished delegate from Indonesia, followed by distinguished delegate from Japan. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable Chair and all participants. Indonesia recognizes the critical roles of robust and inclusive statistical system in informed decision-making and effective policy implementation. We fully support draft recommendation 1, which calls for increased political and financial backing for such systems. Indonesia also endorsed draft recommendation 2, which highlights the importance of a whole-of-society approach to fostering inclusiveness. In Indonesia, this commitment is demonstrated through the establishment of the Statistical Society Forum, This is the independent platform bringing together statisticians, experts, policymakers, and also civil society. The forum consistently provides recommendations aimed to enhancing the quality of official statistics. Indonesia also provides statistical service corner in universities that foster a whole of society approach by improving data literacy among students, academics, and the broader community, ensuring inclusiveness in statistical processes and decision-making. In the draft recommendation 3, Indonesia supports the development of strategic data vision, aligning with our One Data Indonesia initiative. This initiative foster accurate, integrated, and accessible data sharing across central and regional institutions. We believe that partnership between political leaders and technical experts are essential for effective data governance and that drive national development. Indonesia supports this draft decision 1, emphasizing the need to share national experience to advance the declaration on navigating policy with data. To underline this effort, we propose creating regional thematic groups to address specific challenges and enhance collaboration among member states. Lastly, Indonesia endorses draft decision 2, which promotes national data partnerships and user advisory board as a key mechanism to improve data quality and accessibility. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Indonesia. Now we have the distinguished delegate from Japan, followed by the distinguished delegate from Republic of Korea. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, ESCAP Secretary, for your contribution, and good evening, colleagues. We highly commend the progress made by national statistical systems in Asia and the Pacific towards the commitment in the collective vision and framework for action and the declaration on navigating policy with data to leave no one behind. Japan, guided by its master plan concerning the development of official statistics, is advancing efforts such as developing cross-ministerial statistics reflecting socioeconomic changes, improving international comparability, enhancing use-focused data utilization, building infrastructure for high-quality statistics, and using digital technology for efficient production. We believe these efforts contribute to implementing the commitment of collective vision and framework for action and the declaration. And secondly, regarding Commitment 5C of the Monitoring and Evaluation Framework on SIAP training participants, this indicator does not align with SIAP's next strategic plan endorsed at the SIAP Governing Council session held this week. Therefore, the achievement of this indicator should be reviewed flexibly based on SIAP's strategic plan and work plan. Additionally, we request the Secretariat to maintain appropriate communication with members and associate members when setting such indicators. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Japan. Now we have the distinguished delegate from Republic of Korea, followed by the distinguished delegate from Mongolia. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In recognition of progress made by the member countries and the support from the committee's secretariat and the Bureau in advancing collective vision and the framework for action and the declaration on navigating policy with data to leave no one behind, Korea expresses its support for the proposed recommendations and decisions. They align closely with Korea's direction as we strive to build bridges between policy and data. We are evolving our whole of government approach into a whole of society approach to enhance statistics in this rapidly changing data environment. As a case in point, Statistics Korea has been mobilizing several advisory committees to aid efficient decision-making by its commissioner and to be more responsible in addressing emerging issues within a rapidly evolving policy landscape. One example is the Advisory Committee for Low Fertility Statistics and Indicators, established this year by engaging a broad spectrum of stakeholders, including government, private sector, and academia. With its whole of society approach, the committee is making significant strides to improve indicators and enhance their utility for policy purposes. Korea notes the decrease in financial support to statistics across the Asia-Pacific region. Despite this trend, Korea will further expand our statistical support for the region through grant-based assistance, continuing to play an active role in strengthening statistical capacities within our region. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from the Republic of Korea. Now we have the distinguished delegate from Mongolia, followed by the distinguished delegate from Nepal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the Government of Mongolia and the National Statistics Office of Mongolia, I would like to express our sincere appreciation for the work of the committee and the Secretariat on the progress made in implementation of the regional initiatives, for the collective vision and the framework for 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the technical support provided in these areas. We are firmly committed in making our contribution to the work of the Committee on Statistics and its regional steering groups on economic, population, and social statistics and civil registration and vital statistics, as well as its technical working groups. Mr. Chair, Mongolia acknowledged the 3 proposed recommendations for priority action. Furthermore, we have challenges in improving the skills and capabilities of data specialists in statistics and public organizations. Therefore, we believe that by developing strategic visions for data that recognize the power of data, we can address and prioritize these concerns with the support of the national partnership of the data stakeholders. Mongolia endorses the 2 proposed decisions, including a whole-of-society approach to advance the implementation of the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to Leave No One Behind. Furthermore, we strongly support the National Data Partnership development and establishment of national data user advisory groups and strategic visions for data. Mr. Chair, as we move forward, I would like to highlight several key initiatives we are undertaking. One of our first actions is to adopt a whole-of-society approach by joining the United Nations Power of Data Initiative, which will help form a collaborative working group. This will foster the involvement of all stakeholders and emphasize the importance of data culture and education, while creating a supportive environment for data, information technology, and AI. We are also focused on refining our data governance system, which will enable us to define, implement, and monitor data policies effectively at the national level. By treating data as a valuable asset, we can enhance our data infrastructure and strengthen digital economy. Additionally, we are committed to advancing the application of artificial intelligence by establishing mechanisms that promote optimal management and resolution of associated risks and challenges, ensuring its efficient and responsible use. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Mongolia. Now we have the distinguished delegate from Nepal, followed by the distinguished delegate from Russian Federation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Excellency, distinguished delegates, Namaskar. Nepal is a country for inclusive development and achieving sustainable development goals, with data serving as a foundation of evidence-based policy making and addressing the needs of vulnerable population. The NSO is, in partnership with the National Planning Commission, has identified 301 goals and global priority indicators to monitor SDG progress. Disaggregated data collection by age, gender, ethnicity, and geography is prioritized to understand and address the needs of marginalized communities. Large-scale surveys such as Nepal Living Standard Survey, Nepal Demographic and Health Survey, Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey, and National Climate Change Survey support this effort, ensuring updated SDG indicators and guiding policies. Technological tools like the National Data Portal and Integrated Management Information System enable real-time SDG monitoring and inclusive planning. Nepal collaborates with the development partners, civil societies, and academia to enhance data literacy. Despite challenges like resource limitations, data gaps in remote areas, and climate change impacts, Nepal remains committed to addressing this through international cooperation. By presenting the 2024 Vulnerability National Review, we are at the high-level political forum. Nepal reaffirms its dedication to creating an equitable, inclusive, and resilient society, leaving no one behind. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Nepal. Now we have the distinguished delegate from Russian Federation, followed by the distinguished delegate from Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Благодарю вас, господин председатель. Российская Федерация подтверждает приверженность целям и принципам, изложенным в базовых документах по мониторингу ЦУР в регионе, а именно в документе «Совершенствование официальной статистики в интересах осуществления повестки 2030», а также в Декларации о проведении политики с использованием данных, чтобы никто не остался позади. В нашей стране с 2017 года налажена координация мониторинга показателей целей устойчивого развития. При администрации президента функционирует специальная рабочая группа под председательством нашего статистического ведомства. В ее состав входят представители ключевых министерств и ведомств, а также представители научного и экспертного сообщества. И это позволяет нам максимально и эффективно использовать все имеющиеся источники данных. В 2020 году разработан национальный набор показателей ЦУР, в котором отражены национальные особенности и учтены задачи, определенные в стратегических государственных документах. В настоящее время национальный набор содержит около 200 показателей. Это живой инструмент мониторинга, который сегодня показывает положительную динамику достижения показателей ЦУР в нашей стране. Более половины этих показателей представлены также в разрезе регионов нашей страны, и мы ежегодно обновляем этот национальный набор показателей, добавляя в среднем по 10 показателей из глобального перечня. Что касается содействия международному развитию, то среди приоритетов для России наращивание потенциала в области производства показателей для мониторинга ЦУР. В рамках добровольного взноса Российской Федерации в ESCAP финансировались два больших проекта. Это повышение квалификационных навыков в целях улучшения статистического мониторинга ЦУР и обучения молодых специалистов. Мы заявляем о своей готовности и в дальнейшем продолжать работу по поддержке ключевых инициатив комиссии. Одновременно хотелось бы отметить, что в Содружестве независимых государств, большинство из которых являются членами ESCAP, реализуется масштабный проект по развитию статистики при финансовой поддержке Российской Федерации. Он направлен в том числе на улучшение мониторинга целей устойчивого развития в странах Содружества. Среди ключевых компонентов проекта – развитие методологии, информационных систем, кадрового потенциала статистических служб. Ряд направлений работы и передовой опыт стран нашего региона, на наш взгляд, может представлять интерес и для ESCAP в целом. Спасибо.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Russian Federation. Now we have the distinguished delegate from Sri Lanka, followed by the distinguished delegate from Thailand. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates. Sri Lanka's journey towards recovery from the recent economic crisis hinges significantly on the improvements and utilization of high-quality data. As the nation seeks to rebuild and foster sustainable growth, it is imperative to adapt evidence-based based people-centered decision-making approaches. The government's emphasis on digitalization aligns perfectly with this need, positioning data as a critical asset in shaping effective policies that can alleviate poverty, reduction inequalities, and enhance the overall well-being of its citizens. The National Statistics Office in Sri Lanka, committed to supporting the country's development agenda with high quality and timely data, has taken significant steps to enhance granular level data sources. In keeping with the technological advancement, our focus is to transition from traditional systems to innovative approaches that leverage digital tools, ensuring efficiency, inclusivity, and transparency. We have already made significant strides formulating the Sri Lanka strategy for the development of statistics under the recommendation made by National Statistics Review and drafted the new legislation to modernization of our statistical system. I highly appreciate the support provided by UNFPA, World Bank, and United Nations for these initiatives. This initiative aimed to strengthen the national statistical system by addressing data gaps, promoting coordination among stakeholders, and fostering the production of reliable disaggregated statistics for evidence-based decision-making and sustainable development planning. The anticipated launch of the strategy in early 2025 makes a critical juncture in this journey, paving the way for a data-driven future for the nation. Looking ahead, our focus is to establish, registered, and enhance the use of administrative data to complement and enrich census data. We have already initiated work on establishing a statistical business register and hope to gradually transition the census to a register-based census. It is challenging for the NSO in Sri Lanka. However, we are confident that we can build a strong national statistics system that empowers Sri Lanka to achieve its development aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Sri Lanka. Now we have the distinguished delegate from Thailand, followed by the distinguished delegate from the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thailand recognizes the critical importance of linking policies with statistical data to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, especially in strengthening the national statistical system to meet increasing data demands, including through investments and capacity building for statistical agencies. Thailand supports ESCAP effort to highlight the vital role of statistical systems in advancing the Sustainable Development Agenda by integrating reliable data into policy making. This ensures that the needs of all population groups, especially vulnerable ones, are addressed, leaving no one behind. Thailand is committed to fostering a whole of society approach to national statistical system, promoting collaboration across all sectors. To drive sustainable development, we also aim to develop a systematic and policy-aligned data management framework to enhance the effective use of data at all decision-making levels. Furthermore, we stand ready to support ESCAP's efforts to strengthen the region's data capacity, ensure reliance and sustainability in the future. The National Statistical Office of Thailand continues to implement key initiatives such as the Third National Statistical System Master Plan 2023 to 2027, demonstrating the country's dedication to improving data accuracy and accessibility. This is achieved through collaborative mechanisms, including Thailand National Statistical Committee, the Subcommittee on Academic Statistics, and the Subcommittee on Social Economy and National Resources, and the Subcommittee on Quality and Statistical Standards. Thailand remains committed to working closely with ESCAP and fellow member states to strengthen regional statistical cooperation and build a more data-driven future for sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Thailand. Now we have the distinguished delegate from the United Kingdom, followed by the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Excellencies and distinguished delegates. The United Kingdom is delighted to be here. This event is a great opportunity to collaborate and share experiences with a diverse range of important stakeholders and partners. The UK is supportive of the recommendations in the paper Harnessing the Power of Data to Leave No One Behind, with the whole of society approach being strongly aligned to the UK's own data policies. The UK is a proud and committed advocate for the power of data. We are deeply committed to using the power of data as a key tool to drive progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, demonstrated through leadership and investment. We take learning from our own UK-focused strategic vision of data for the public good, where our priority is to produce data that is aimed at informing the public, supporting the development of public policy and the delivery of services. Through our Office for National Statistics international role, we use the UK's approach and principles to work closely with NSOs to champion high-quality, robust and relevant statistics that can be used to support policy and decision-making. The UK agrees that financial investment in data remains insufficient. We recognise that NSOs report a lack of funding as a major reason for them struggling to meet requests from domestic policymakers for data for decision-making. The UK is committed to supporting data as a core part of the Financing for Development agenda. It is essential that statistical strategies are embedded within countries' wider development plans. And this is where the power of data can ensure that data produced by NSOs is demonstrated to be key to delivering progress towards the SDGs. The UK recognises that to achieve accelerated progress towards the SDGs, capacity has to be built across an entire system. Through our ONS international work, the UK builds capacity within NSOs to enable appropriate and well-governed data. To enable use of this data by policymakers, we have worked with ESCAP to develop an international data masterclass. This is a comprehensive initiative designed to support non-analytical policy leaders in putting data at the heart of decision-making. The UK also supports initiatives to incorporate citizen-generated data into official statistics through key partners such as Paris 21. The UK is a strong advocate for inclusive data and drives forward transformational change through the Inclusive Data Charter. The UK will continue to champion the power of data and the partnerships which come together to bridge from NSOs into every corner of society. We will also continue to champion the Inclusive Data Charter, and the UK will collaborate with ESCAP on an open SDG, an open source free-to-use platform designed for managing and publishing data and statistics related to SDGs.
Thank you, distinguished delegate. You can just wrap up now.
The UK commits to sharing a refreshed strategic vision with ESCAP that better articulates the technical assistance and power of data learning that can be offered to the region. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from the UK. Now we have the distinguished delegate from the United States of America, followed by the distinguished delegate from Uzbekistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Last year at the 8th session of this committee, we reported on the United States Data Modernization Initiative managed by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC. This initiative is an effort to transform the U.S. public health data systems into an integrated, response-ready, and resilient system to support our ongoing efforts to enable proactive public health prevention and response. We note that the Data Modernization Initiative's use of the U.S. Vital Statistics System is a prime example of how we can leverage data to meet current public health statistical needs, not only in the United States, but around the world. Successful use of data to leave no person behind requires a whole-of-government approach through enhanced coordination and the linkage of cross-government functions. 4 critical factors enable such a linkage. These include policies, agreements, and legislation, infrastructure and related data governance, funding and resources, and finally, human resources and organizational culture. Each of these factors can support the integration of systems and the deployment of modernized technology, as well as the people and process considerations that are needed to ensure that relevant statistics are effectively collected, efficiently processed, and promptly disseminated to all stakeholders in the public, private, and academic communities. These observations are based on the work of the US CDC and their National Center for Health Statistics, and we are eager to explore opportunities to deepen our cooperation in Asia and the Pacific on this issue and work together to harness the power of data and ensure no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from the United States of America. Distinguished delegate from Uzbekistan, you have the floor now.
Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. The Republic of Uzbekistan, along with all other countries, has undertaken measures to implement the global agenda for SDG. Several normative legal documents of the government have been adopted, and 16 goals and 126 tasks considered relevant for Uzbekistan as national goals and objectives. The Statistics Agency is responsible for the monitoring the advancement towards of national SDGs in Uzbekistan. Thus, a national SDG portal was established, and all national indicators are published on this platform regularly. These measures demonstrate the strong commitment of our policymakers to achieve SDGs, with the aim of leaving no one behind. As we all know, production of high-quality, granular data on a timely manner requires high statistical capacity. In this regard, Uzbekistan has been giving high priority to enhancement of national statistical system, adoption of the national strategy for the development of statistics for 2020-2025, as aim to achieve this goal. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Uzbekistan. We have now gotten to the end of the statements by members and associate members of the Commission. As time allows, I would like to now open the floor to observers, United Nations bodies, international organizations, and non-governmental organizations in this order. Distinguished delegate from CIS, you have the floor now, followed by the distinguished delegate from ILO. Thank you.
Благодарю вас, уважаемый председатель. Мониторинг целей устойчивого развития в регионе стран СНГ был начат в 2016 году. Статкомитет СНГ в теснейшем взаимодействии с национальными статистическими службами, международными организациями. Это взаимодействие позволяет изучать лучший опыт, внедрять новые подходы в измерении показателей, способствовать гармонизации методологии и сопоставимости показателей. С 2020 года эта работа поддерживается проектом, который Статкомитет вместе с ЮНФПА проводил. А с 2023 года эта работа продолжается в рамках проекта развития статистики СНГ. Оба проекта финансируются Российской Федерацией. Что мы осуществляем в рамках этого проекта? Ну, прежде всего, осуществляется методологическая подготовка, проработка вопросов, перевод международных рекомендаций на русский язык, адаптируются эти рекомендации к условиям региона. В настоящее время в мониторинге участвует, так сказать, уже 148 показателей в самых разных разрезах. Это пол, возраст, уровень образования, уровень доходов, место жительства, инвалидность и ряд других показателей. Регулярно выпускаются статистические сборники, брошюры, буклеты под СУРом, проводятся международные конференции. Очень большое внимание уделяется цифровизации. Создан дата-хаб, причем это не только хаб данных, но и метаданных, причем мы разрабатываем уже и смарт-данные, то есть смарт-метаданные. При этом разработан в рамках этого дата-хаба, существует специальный раздел «Цели устойчивого развития». Сейчас он представлен 150 интерактивными дашбордами.
Это позволяет проводить, понимать, во-первых, интерпретировать, глубоко понимать, как каждая страна создает эти данные, показатели, и, конечно, позволяет гораздо более глубоко анализировать эти данные. Причем выгружаются данные в самых разных формах, в том числе самых продвинутых, и из DMX, и JSON, и даже в формате RDF. Мы заинтересованы в расширении международного сотрудничества, продолжении в обмене опытом. Мы приглашаем страны региона ESCAP в наших форумах. Мы проводим статистические викторины, мы проводим студенческие фестивали, олимпиады.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from CIS. You can now wrap up.
Я заканчиваю.
Thank you.
И, конечно, мы чрезвычайно заинтересованы также в изучении опыта стран в использовании нетрадиционных источников, в том числе Big Data, искусственного интеллекта, смарт-метаданных. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from CIS. Now we have the distinguished delegate from ILO, followed by the distinguished delegate from UN Women. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The International Labour Organization highly appreciates the work of the Asian Pacific Committee of Statistics and would like to thank member states and other partners for the continued collaboration in assuring that we do not leave any key feature of labour markets behind when measuring such an important area for national well-being. The ILO would like to highlight the international standard-setting mechanism of labour statistics through the International Conference of Labour Statisticians, ICLS, where governments, employers, and workers' organizations have been agreeing on key concepts and methods in the last 101 years. In the recent past 11 years, groundbreaking standards were adopted through the ICLS. The resolution concerning statistics of work, employment, and labor and their utilization was adopted in 2013 by the 19 ICLS. It revised the boundaries of how to define employment and other forms of work, allowing better comparable measurements on employment and labor and their utilizations, as well as other forms of work, such as own-use production of goods and services, providing better coverage of women's work particularly. The 20th ICLS resolution concerning statistics on work relationships of 2018 focused on non-standard forms of work, particularly with the new concept of dependent contractors, and the 21st ICLS in 2023 adopted the resolution concerning statistics on the informal economy, extending the criteria for informality to all types of work. Together, these three resolutions provide a sound basis to avoid leaving vulnerable and special groups behind by statistical measurement. We believe that we statisticians have the responsibility to refine our methods to equip better our policymakers and citizens with better tools to act on such a key area for all us. ILO has been actively supporting member states in implementing these standards, and many countries in the region have either implemented or are in the path of implementing them. We highly commend these countries. Unfortunately, we still have a number of countries in the Pacific and Asia region that are still behind this task. Some are significantly important countries in both economic terms and the size of their labor forces. These hamper producing reliable labor statistics at the regional, sub-regional levels, and of course global levels. We urge member states to support the initiatives of implementing this latest statistical standard to enhance coherent labor statistics in the region, and we in the ILO remain committed and ready to offer active support to these countries to implement them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from ILO. We now have the distinguished delegate from UN Women, followed by the distinguished delegate from UNFPA. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. UN Women wishes to congratulate the Secretariat and the panelists for today's high-level segment on this important topic. Through its Women Count program, UN Women regularly works to leverage the power of data to leave no one behind. For instance, working with national statistics offices, ministries of environment, ministries of women, and many other government institutions, UN Women has supported the design and implementation of national surveys on gender and the environment in multiple countries. Civil society and scientists have been thoroughly consulted for survey design, and we continue working with them to promote data use. By integrating gender and environment survey data with geospatial data and complementing these findings with those from other forms of big data analysis, important gender data gaps are being filled. Findings have been used to inform national policies, humanitarian training of government officials, and to establish women's economic empowerment initiatives in the context of climate change. In addition, in collaboration with multiple international agencies, UN Women developed a list of 100 gender and environment indicators, along with a set of tools for their measurement. Together with UN ESCAP, UN Women has supported multiple countries for the national adaptation of this list, identification of national priority indicators, and production of related data. These national processes have been widely inclusive, with presence of multiple ministries, statistics offices, development partners, and civil society organizations. Through this work, UN Women and partners expect to continue leveraging the power of data to leave no one behind, including enhancing the availability and use of data that reflects the realities of women and men in all their diversities. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from UN Women. Now we have the distinguished delegate from UNFPA, followed by the distinguished delegate from UNHCR. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, colleagues, data is the fuel that powers progress across all the SDGs. It requires prioritization, investment, and coordination. By forging transformational national data partnerships, we can unlock a powerful data dividend with a $32 return for every dollar invested. That will drive significant benefits for people and the planet, unlocking a more equal world, particularly for women and girls who bear the greatest burden of inequality. At UNFPA, we recognize that data isn't just about numbers. Our strength lies in bringing numbers to life to inform and affirm the rights and choices of every woman and girl. Through data, we reveal the unseen and prioritize those left behind. Data now also allows us to see clearly the unacceptable rates at which women are dying while giving life, and the inequalities that are quite literally killing them. Through census, health surveys, innovative data platforms, and research, we contribute to unveiling the unseen. We are supporting member states in strengthening their population data systems, including modernizing population censuses, while enhancing the quality and availability of data outputs by leveraging the potential of geospatial technologies and data integration. We prioritize areas where data is lacking and where it contributes to intense human suffering, including the preventable deaths of women and newborns and GBV. This includes emergency settings. In Asia and the Pacific, it is critical to ensure evidence-based disaster risk reduction and effective emergency preparedness and response. To this end, in partnership with OCHA, we ensure the availability and quality of updated common operational data sets for population statistics to provide disaggregated population data to guide disaster preparedness response and recovery strategies. And for SIDS, let's not forget that data-driven human capital development requires both international support and local commitment. The cost of data collection may be high, due in part to remote geographies and the need for larger samples. South-South cooperation can play a key role in this work and help boost capacities of national statistical systems. With more than 8 women dying every hour from preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth, UNFPA is also committed to enhancing health management information systems aimed at improving the collection and use of data for the design of life-saving interventions. GBV remains alarmingly high, and that's why our NOVA data initiative, supported by Australia, strengthens capacities to measure the prevalence of violence against women and improve the availability and quality of data to inform policies. Distinguished delegates, dear friends, for over 50 years, UNFPA's work has centred on enhancing the capacities of national statistical offices and strengthening statistical systems to ensure no one is left behind. At this critical moment when women's rights are under threat, we must remain focused and fully accountable to the needs of women and girls, including the marginalised. In conclusion, when data and health systems work for those on the margins, they work for everyone. That's how we accelerate progress. So too with partnership. So let us together intensify our efforts to collect and use data to inform public policy and reach those left behind.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from UNFPA.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you very much. And we now have the distinguished delegate from UNHCR. Thank you.
Chair, distinguished delegates and colleagues, the 2030 Agenda calls on all of us to leave no one behind. Forcibly displaced and stateless people who are among the most vulnerable should not be excluded. Data is essential for informing policies and programs that support sustainable development and reduce inequalities. Without availability of high-quality disaggregated data on forcibly displaced and stateless populations, these vulnerable groups may further be put at risk. To avoid this happening, UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, together with other stakeholders, has been advocating for their full inclusion in the National Statistical Office and systems. Yet challenges persist in producing SDG indicators disaggregated by forced displacement and statelessness status. National statistical offices may face technical, operational, and resource barriers to integrate forcibly displaced and stateless populations into their frameworks. Without targeted efforts, there is a risk that the visibility of these vulnerable groups in SDG reporting being overlooked. UNHCR stands ready to work with and support national statistical offices, international agencies, and other stakeholders to overcome these challenges. In particular, we are ready to support the adoption and implementation of the international recommendations on refugee statistics, the international recommendations on internally displaced persons or IDP statistics, and the international recommendations on statelessness statistics. Together, we can operationalize the international recommendations, guidelines, manuals, tools, and technical support that will help generate reliable statistics and disaggregated indicators. We recognize the growing interest and goodwill among international agencies and the efforts so far made by several national statistical offices to address data gaps. However, we can do even better in the near future by further strengthening our collaborations. By working together, we can bridge these gaps and ensure that these vulnerable populations we collectively serve are included in the regional and global efforts to truly leave no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from UNHCR. Would any other delegations like to raise any other matters on this agenda item at this time? I see none. Thank you for your interventions. I would like now to highlight the draft recommendations and decisions related to this agenda item as contained in document ESCAP/CST(9/2). The first recommendation reads as follows. Draft Recommendation 1. Acknowledging the need to accelerate the implementation of the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to Leave No One Behind, the Committee on Statistics recommends that the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific call upon its members and associate members to increase political and financial support for inclusive statistical systems to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Distinguished delegates, would any delegation wish to intervene specifically on the text proposed? Yes, I see distinguished delegate from Fiji. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of my head of delegation, let me make a few remarks in regards to this particular text. And let me, at the outset, thank the Secretary for this good text. But we feel that it needs to be strengthened further, given what the many issues that's been raised around the table this morning in regards to lack of finance and lack of progress in some of the SDGs, particularly 13, 14, and 17, which is in relation to partnerships. So if I may, Mr. Chair, on the paragraph, if I can request the text on screen so that we can do some, can I make my proposal?
Can the Secretary please show the draft recommendation on the screen, please? Yes, distinguished delegate from Fiji, would you like to propose any change in the text?
Yes, Mr. Chair, on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the top, after the word members, comma, draft recommendation, yes, after the word members, is that, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. After the word members, 4, line 4 in the middle there, associate members, after the word associate members, comma, with support of development partners, comma, with support of development partners, comma, the sentence continues to increase political and financial support for inclusive statistical systems. After financial support, comma, most preferably grants. And the sentence continues on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Fiji, for your intervention. Is this proposed text as amended acceptable to all other delegation members? Yes, I see the distinguished delegate from Japan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I propose a sentence to delete political end. So we wonder how to support internal political things from outside. Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
To increase political and financial support, we propose to delete a political end.
Distinguished delegate of Japan, is this amendment what you mean? Delete political end. Is the proposed text as amended acceptable to all delegation members? Yes, distinguished delegate from Philippines.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think with the original, if I understand it, the original tone of the statement is to get support, political and financial support from government within the country. And right now, as corrected, it seems that the support, which is now financial, is coming from outside the country, which clearly, as my understanding, shifted the tone from the original statement, which is getting support, political and financial, from governments to development partners outside the countries. So I don't know whether we're changing the original statement, or if we want to add perhaps support from development partners, we can add another paragraph. Because the tone now, for me, shifted from getting support, political and financial, from our governments to external. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments. What do we propose to change to?
If the members are amenable on adding support from development partners, my suggestion is that we add it as another paragraph so that it will be distinguished from the original tone of the statement, which is asking for political and financial support from governments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, okay. We just had a small discussion, so this is really going a little bit off track already. Taking into account the distinguished delegate from Philippines, we are suggesting to shift the recommendation from distinguished delegate from Fiji, the particular part on with support of development partners and the part on grants, to another statement, another sentence, and my colleagues here are doing the typo now. In that case, can we retain the phrase political and, which will not interfere with the original meaning of the text? Because as what the distinguished delegate from Philippines is trying to say, we are trying to harness political support internally from our own governments to do this work. Is that okay? Thank you, distinguished delegate from Japan. Let us try to put this together now. Okay. Okay, let me just try and read it out, and our distinguished member from Fiji, you can have a look at the revised text. Draft recommendation 1, acknowledging the need to accelerate the implementation of the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to leave no one behind, comma. The Committee on Statistics recommends that the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific call upon its members and associate members to increase political and financial support for inclusive statistical systems to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, including the support of development partners, most preferably in the form of grants. Full stop. Distinguished delegate from Fiji, is the amendment okay with you?
Chair, thank you for the proposals that has been put forward by the Philippines, I understand. My delegation is of the view that when we talk about members and associate members, those are governments who are members of this ESCAP, this organization. So with the support of development partners, that is in addition to what members are going to help. As I've explained earlier, your document clearly states that there is a decline in SDG 17. And there's more loans going to developing countries, particularly small and developing states, and less grants. And I think that emphasis there is taking away the essence of the message that I tried to say earlier of grants, the importance of grants, and the backsliding of SDGs. We are only 6 years away, and yet we're still debating about who should be doing what. But I'm making that comment, Chair, should the Philippine delegation insist, then we will have to look at a reformulation that captures, in our view, most preferably grants to be linked to the financial support. I'm okay with the Japanese proposal. I'm okay with that one. Thank you, Chair.
Just give us a minute. Thank you. Okay, let me just try to read this out again. Instead of putting the development partners all the way to the end, we'll try to shift it to the part after financial support. Because the political part, we take it that should remain based on what distinguished delegate from Philippines has mentioned, because it's tied to the members' own government. And we understand where Fiji is coming from. The development partners is playing an important role in terms of financial support. So we want to move that up. And we take into account distinguished delegate from Japan, political part, that portion of politics should be tied to the members and not to the development partners. So let's try to do these three all together. Let me try to read out again, draft recommendation 1. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. So it's just mentioning including with the support, but it's just coming out after. Okay, let's go. Acknowledging the need to accelerate the implementation of the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to leave no one behind, the Committee on Statistics recommends that the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific call upon its members and associate members to increase political and we leave that in, to increase political and financial support, including the support of developmental partners, most preferably in the form of grants, for inclusive statistical systems to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, full stop. Yeah, but is this okay with the distinguished delegate from Fiji?
I can live with that, Chair. Thank you.
And now, is this okay with distinguished delegate from Philippines and the distinguished delegate from Japan? Okay. Well, now I see the distinguished delegate from the USA. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Recognizing that everyone would rather get a grant than some other type of financing, I'd just like to reserve on this and touch back with capital overnight. I do think when you looked at like language in the Pact for the Future, it talks about expanding all types of financing and doesn't pull out specific ones. So I can't say object now, but I would like to reserve for tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, I see the distinguished delegate from Japan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We also would like to take this back to Capital. With regard to just general principles of assistance, we also go for the all sources language, not particularly limited to ODA, just because ODA is such a small slice these days with regard to available resources, and it doesn't really seem to make sense. So we actually do have a strong preference for the original formulation of the text, just to be very clear. But with the reference of ODA, we need to take it back to Capital. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Japan. Given the comments from the distinguished delegate from Japan and the distinguished delegate from USA, can we come back to this? Can we drop the most preferably in the form of grants, this phrase? So it reads, let me read from the middle, including the support of development partners, for inclusive statistical systems to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, full stop. Yeah, because this part, it doesn't limit you to any form of assistance. And is this okay with the distinguished delegate from Fiji?
Thank you, Chair. In the spirit of compromise and moving forward, we agree to dropping in the form of grants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I see distinguished delegate from Japan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the proposal, but in a way, we're still kind of providing a preferential treatment of a specific financial modality. So in that sense, I mean, we do prefer reference to all sources rather than a particular form. So we're not entirely 100% convinced with this. So we do stand, ask for consultation overnight. Thank you. We prefer all sources language.
Yes, but can I check the original recommendation talks about, can I just read it off? Calls upon its members and associate members to increase political and financial support for inclusive statistical systems to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. That was the original statement. The financial support was already there. Can I clarify that you have issue with this phrase?
No, we're happy with the original text, just to be very clear.
Right. So that is the original text, right? The additional part is including the support of development partners proposed by the distinguished delegate from Fiji. That doesn't really hurt the original text. Can I just clarify? Yes, so just to mention that there's no preference, it's just including the support of development partners, because the original phrase doesn't bring into the picture the development partners. I think that is the intent from the distinguished delegate from Fiji. It just brings them into the picture. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
No, we just wanted to reiterate the preference for the original text because the including the support of seems to be to cross for both political and financial support. So I just think it's cleaner to have without the addition if we were going.
Thank you for the comments, distinguished delegate from Japan. May I ask the distinguished member from Fiji, given this comment, would you be okay to go back to the original text?
Chair, I think I've already explained myself very clearly. My mandate is sitting right to my left here. I really can't move here. It's the red line for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we hear both distinguished delegate from Japan and distinguished delegate from Fiji. I think if we can have a small discussion between Japan and Fiji, we will take this offline. But before we move, can I just ask our distinguished delegations here, would you have any further comments on draft recommendation 1 as it stands now in front of you? Thank you, distinguished delegates. Let us move on to recommendation 2, which reads as follows. Draft recommendation 2. The Committee on Statistics requests that the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific acknowledge that the successful implementation of the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to Leave No One Behind requires a whole-of-society approach that recognizes the importance of and facilitates the agency and participation of all governmental and non-governmental actors in decision-making for official statistics. Distinguished delegates, the floor is now open for comments on the draft recommendation. I see none. Thank you, distinguished delegates. I will now ask the Secretary to include the text for this draft recommendation in the draft report to be considered on Friday. Let us now move on to draft recommendation 3, which reads as follows. The Committee on Statistics requests that the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific encourage governments to develop strategic visions for data that recognize the power of data and are supported by national partnerships that bring together political leaders and technical experts for the identification of shared priorities and the establishment of inclusive data governance arrangements. Distinguished delegates, the floor is now open for comments. I see the distinguished delegate from China. You have the floor.
谢谢主席。对不起，我要回到刚才这个第一个建议，因为刚才讨论，斐济代表要求加上那个发展伙伴，我们建议在这个发展伙伴后加上一个事情，因为这发展伙伴是要具有这个联合国资质的。谢谢。
Thank you, distinguished delegate from China. So we will add on the phrase as appropriate, including the support of development partners as appropriate. Thank you. We'll come back to the delegations on this particular recommendation after we have had a small group discussion between Japan and Fiji. Thank you. Now let us come back to draft recommendation 3. Distinguished delegates, the floor is now open for comments on draft recommendation 3. I see the distinguished delegate from Japan. You have the floor. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, just to recommendation 1. It's not that we exactly, no, can you please go back to 1? Yeah. Can you delete Japan as being, because we just need consultation, so can you delete the Japan reference? In the bracket? Because we just need confirmation from capital. Delete.
Thank you. Now let's move on to draft recommendation 3. Is the proposed text as displayed here agreeable, acceptable to all delegations? Thank you. I see none. I request the Secretary to include this version of the text in the draft report for consideration during the adoption of the report on Friday. Let us now consider draft decisions. We can start with the draft decision 1, which reads as follows. Draft decision 1. The Committee on Statistics decides to promote a whole-of-society approach to advance the implementation of the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to Leave No One Behind, with an emphasis on sharing country research and experiences and facilitating the provision of technical assistance, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources. Distinguished delegates, the floor is now open for comments on the draft decision. Thank you. I see none. I'll request the Secretariat to include this version of text in the draft report for consideration during the adoption of the report. Let us now consider draft decision 2, which reads as follows. The Committee on Statistics decides to advance the development of national data partnerships and the establishment of national data user advisory groups to advise chief statisticians and to support the development of strategic visions for data, with an emphasis on sharing country research and experiences and facilitating the provision of technical assistance, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources. Distinguished delegates, the floor is now open for comments on the draft decision. Yes, I see the member, distinguished delegate from Fiji. The floor is open for you.
Chair, it's a point of clarification on my part. What is really the difference between draft decision 1 and 2? Because I'm seeing that there's some repetitions and I would like, to make some proposals, but it seems that you push on to draft decision 2. Can the Secretary help us, enlighten us on what's really the intention of draft decision 1 and 2? What does it want to address in terms of the issues that's being discussed by our ministers today? Thank you.
Distinguished delegate from Fiji, thank you for your intervention. The decision number 1 refers to the recommendation number 1, which is, can you go up to the recommendation? I wanted to link the two together. Number 2, recommendation number 2. Yeah, decision number 1 reflects on the recommendation number 2, which is asking the Commission to acknowledge the successful implementation and also to take the whole of society approach in implementation of the declaration. So this is a support to the national statistical systems to also take the whole of society approach. And then decision number 2 reflects on the recommendation number 3, which is mainly asking for development of a strategic vision for data at the country level. So basically, recommendations providing high-level political support for the decisions, for the 2 decisions to be implemented at the national level. I hope that clarified.
Thank you, Secretary Chair. Can we go to the draft decision then? Thank you very much.
I see distinguished delegate from Samoa. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether we have, well, now we moved on whilst Fiji still hasn't resolved. But if I may add my comment, it seems that in the draft decision 1 and 2, that we're adding activities and work, but at the end of both decisions, we're saying that while bearing in mind the need to stay with existing regular budget resources, my concern is that if we really want to engage the community, there is a lot of costs associated with consultations and many other activities that are associated with those things. Unfortunately, there is this last line. So once we want to do more activities, we are limiting the opportunities of having extra resources. That's my concern. Thank you.
Let me just quickly clarify, I think, what we mean on that one. I think we usually include that phrase to really reflect the fact that that's within the Secretariat's own, but we're maintaining things within our own existing budgetary resources. But I think the point about, like you're saying, in terms of the work of a National Statistical Office and the importance of getting additional financial or other support, that's why we put in there the recommendation to go to the Commission, which actually looks at how countries might want to be able to look at how to mobilize all forms of support. So that's why we have that in there, really to reflect that fact that we're not in a position that we can actually increase our own kind of our own activities with and take on new activities that go beyond our own budget. and that's a different process. So it's important that we kind of recognise that what we're having to do is within the our secretariat existing regular budget resources in terms of how we support countries. Thank you.
I see the distinguished delegate from Maldives, followed by the distinguished delegate from Fiji. Distinguished delegate from Maldives, you have the floor. Thank you.
I think there's no need to state it while bearing in mind the need to stay within the existing regular budget for both decision 1 and 2, because even if we want, we cannot go beyond the budget. So is it necessary to have it in the decision? Thank you.
Thank you. We hear you. Let's hear from distinguished delegate from Fiji. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We go along with the Samoa and the Maldives on that bracket, to that back end of that sentence. Other than that, in terms of the explanation of the Secretary on draft decision 1 and 2, linking to the recommendations, my delegation is happy with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Fiji. Now we have the distinguished delegate from Japan. You have the floor.
Japan would like to keep that phrase, thank you, to clarify the existing mandate and resources. Thank you.
Thank you. We hear from distinguished delegate from Japan to keep the phrase. Thank you. I see the distinguished delegate from UK. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question to the Secretariat. Given the wording of both Decision 1 and 2, my presumption is that if you did not have that last line, you would nonetheless not be increasing budget in order to meet those decisions, that the budget is already there for those 2 decisions. You know, the Secretariat already works on those issues. And therefore, they're, you know, just as was raised by the Maldives, it doesn't necessarily matter for these 2 decisions. Does that sound correct? You know, is this work already in train and there's no need for additional resource anyway?
I think just to clarify, it's a question in terms of prioritization, and it's a phrase that we've used in many of our previous decisions, just to be very clear that we're not changing existing mandates or looking to change our budget resources. So it is the same phrase that we used, for example, in the 8th session of the Committee on Statistics and a number of decisions then. So we have just generally included it there, just to be very, very clear about that when we are kind of setting out new slightly different work, that it's within the existing mandate, within the existing budget resources. And we've used the same phrase that we used in the previous 8th session of the Committee on Statistics.
Yes, distinguished delegate from Japan, UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, that was a question for me rather than a statement of position next to the highlighted text. Thank you.
Distinguished delegate from Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Mine was also a question earlier in regards to that back end. Do you need it anyway? If there is resources already available, why do you need that to be part of the decision? That's the difficulty that I had, and I entirely agree with the question posed by the distinguished delegate of the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Yes, I see the distinguished delegate from USA. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate, I think this is language we've used across, not just in this committee, but in the Committee on Transport, the Committee on the social Development, and there was one more this fall that's escaping me at the moment. But if there are potential resource implications for this decision, and I think it's helpful to spell out that there are not, then if we're pulling that language out, then I'll need to go back to capital and get authorization. Because I think it's very helpful to clarify in the minds of many of our capitals that this is not a resource-inducing decision. Rather, it is a decision within current resources and mandates to carry out the work of the committee and ESCAP writ large. So if this is a red line for those who have insisted on, suggested to take it out, then I'll need to go back to capital, get further authorization.
Thank you. We hear from distinguished delegates from Japan and USA that this is a red line. They would like to keep this phrase in. And we also hear from Rachel that it has been used in many texts before, even in the last Committee on Stats. Let me just come back to the distinguished delegate from Samoa and also from Fiji and Maldives. Yes, I see the distinguished delegate from Samoa.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I don't know what my position, our position, Samoa's position, is the fact that any decision that we make today is for the betterment of tomorrow, not going back. So it's our view that if we're looking at, we're trying to add more activities by the way we draft the decisions, and what we're tying ourselves to previous sort of arrangement. But it's yeah, that's why I raised it. Thank you.
Yes. Any comments from distinguished delegates from Fiji and Maldives?
I think it's okay to keep it also, but it doesn't matter if it is deleted even. So I agree.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Maldives. Just give us a minute.
I think just to clarify in terms of kind of draft decision 1 and 2, that everything that we're suggesting, we're not suggesting any, no matter if that phrase is in there or not, we're not suggesting any change to our mandate. We're not suggesting any change to the budget resources which we have. And just to clarify that what we're talking about here is within our Secretariat existing regular budgetary resources. Just to clarify that. And that.
Thank you, Rachel, and for the clarification. If we are to keep this phrase in, would any member state, any distinguished delegation have any comments? I see distinguished delegate from Pakistan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We all can recall that yesterday we spent significant time in discussing the impediments behind the slow progress member states have been making towards the objective we set last year. And one major reason was lack of the digital infrastructure. So there was discussion on how we can get close to the targets set by ourselves by operational efficiency, which was not having any resource implication. But the gaps in the digital infrastructure systems, that was one discrete thing which requires resources. So barring from this discussion which we are having, how we'll get close to the targets we set ourselves for 2030 in terms of inclusive data if we do not talk about resources, because many of the member states have this problem.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Pakistan. I just wanted to clarify, this is related to also the intervention made by distinguished delegate from Samoa. I wanted to clarify that the regular budget in this phrase refers to the budget for the Secretariat of ESCAP. It does not refer to the financial resources available for implementation of the recommendations and decisions that we are discussing here. The recommendation number 1, which is asking for increasing financial support from member states and associate members as well as development partners, that is the recommendation basically calling for increased investment in statistical development. And that is what basically supposed to provide required resources for implementation of the decisions. But this one is only to assure that the Secretariat will carry on this work within the existing budget.
So given this understanding, distinguished members here, are we okay to keep the phrase in? Is the budget that's allocated to the ESCAP Secretariat to do the work?
Yes, you can delete Maldives' name.
Thank you. Distinguished member from Samoa.
Well, thank you, Chair. I don't have hard feelings. It's just a matter of phrasing, because at the start of the phrase, you're saying promote a whole of society approach, which we know very well. It involves a lot of activities. And then at the beginning, maybe my English is not right, but you're contradicting things. But as you said, you're talking about the secretariat, but maybe it's better to leave it out. The last statement, should it be, otherwise, that's fine.
Thank you, distinguished member from Samoa. Can I have distinguished delegate from Fiji? Would you like to have any comments? Can we leave the phrase in?
I've been advised that that phrase is redundant. It needs to be removed. And I'm trying to convince my minister to agree with me. I'll come back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, distinguished delegates, let's have one last round while we decide between Fiji and Japan and US whether we can leave the phrase in or out. Any other comments from distinguished members? Thank you very much. I see no other comments. We will close off today's session and we will reconvene again tomorrow. But for members, right, okay. Distinguished member from Fiji, yes, I see you.
Yes.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for bringing us back. We just finished our consultations with Japan and my minister, and we agreed to retain that back end of the statement yes, draft decision 1. We are happy that it will be retained. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will retain that phrase with the understanding that it's actually talking about the ESCAP secretary and the scope of work there. So that's great for draft decision 1 and 2. Any members with any other comments? Yeah, if not, we will adjourn for today, but we do still have one recommendation left, recommendation 1. So we have a small discussion for recommendation 1. Okay, For recommendation 1, we will just need to hold back a few of you. For the rest of you, thank you so much for your active participation throughout the day. I think I see you tomorrow, and have a restful evening. Thank you so much. By the way, off the cuff, this is my first session. Seems like quite a difficult session for me. Please have some mercy. Thank you very much. Excuse me, the distinguished delegate from Fiji, Japan, and China, would it be possible for you to come on stage and have a look at the text? Thank you.